My beloved child. Do not scroll past this moment. Stay here, because something has been stirring beneath the surface tonight, something your eyes cannot see and your ears have not yet heard. You may have arrived here casually, perhaps expecting another message, another passing moment, another voice among thousands. But this one carries a different weight. There is a reason your heart reacted before your mind could explain why. There is a reason you felt drawn to these words. Tonight, the person your soul still recognizes is moving through an hour of deep uncertainty, and heaven is asking you not to respond with fear, but with awareness. Something around your soulmate has shifted, and before this night is over, they may be forced to confront a truth they have been avoiding for far too long. Listen closely, because when I speak of danger, I am not asking you to imagine darkness chasing them through the streets or some terrible fate waiting behind a door. The danger surrounding them tonight is quieter than that, and in some ways far more powerful. It is the danger of making a life-changing choice while overwhelmed. It is the danger of believing a painful thought simply because it arrived during a lonely hour. It is the danger of walking away from something precious because they have become exhausted from carrying emotions they never learned how to express. Your soulmate has reached a point where the pressure inside them can no longer remain hidden, and the decision forming in their heart tonight could change the direction of everything between you. There is something they have not told you. Something they have carried silently while appearing stronger than they truly feel. To others, they may seem normal. They may laugh. They may answer messages. They may continue with responsibilities as if nothing has changed. But heaven sees the spaces between those moments. Heaven sees what happens when the room becomes quiet and they are left alone with their thoughts. Heaven has watched them replay conversations involving you, remembering words they wish they could change, moments they wish they had handled differently, and opportunities they allowed to slip away because pride whispered that there would always be more time. Tonight, that illusion of endless time is breaking. Something happened recently that made them realize how fragile distance can become. It may have been a conversation, a memory, something someone said unexpectedly, or a moment when your absence suddenly became louder than everything else around them. Whatever triggered it, they have not been able to shake the feeling since. They are beginning to understand that silence does not protect a connection forever. Silence can also become a wall. And now they are standing before the wall they helped build, wondering whether they still have the courage to cross it. My child, your soulmate has been pretending that they can control what they feel for you. They told themselves they could bury it beneath work, responsibilities, distractions, new routines, or other people's opinions. They tried to reduce something deep into something manageable. They called it timing. They called it confusion. They called it needing space. They may even have convinced themselves that staying distant was the wiser choice. Yet every time they believed they had finally quieted their feelings, something small brought you back into their heart. A familiar song. A place connected to a memory. A name that sounded almost like yours. A photograph they did not expect to see. A dream that felt strangely vivid after waking. And each time, the same question returned. What if I walked away from the one person I was never supposed to forget? That question has become heavier tonight. There is another layer to this that you need to hear. Your soulmate has recently been receiving advice from someone who believes they are helping. This person may care about them genuinely, yet they do not fully understand the connection between you. They see only what has happened on the outside. They see delays, complications, unanswered questions, perhaps emotional distance. They do not see the private meaning beneath those things. And because they cannot feel what your soulmate feels, their advice has been practical, simple, and dangerous to a heart already confused. Move on. Stop thinking about it. If it was meant to happen, it would have happened already. Choose what feels easier. Those words have been echoing in your soulmate's mind. For a moment, they almost believed them. That is where tonight became important. Because your soulmate has been close to making a decision based not on what their heart knows, but on what their exhaustion is telling them. They have been considering closing a door without ever saying what was truly behind it. They have thought about disappearing emotionally, convincing themselves that losing you quietly would hurt less than risking rejection openly. But something inside them keeps resisting. Every time they try to imagine a future in which you are completely gone, something tightens inside their chest. Every time they picture never hearing from you again, the idea does not bring relief. It brings emptiness. And that emptiness is telling them something they have avoided admitting. They are not finished with you. The story is not finished either. But heaven will not force either of you to choose love. Heaven guides. Heaven reveals. Heaven opens doors. Yet the heart must still decide whether it will walk through them. This is why tonight feels so intense around your soulmate. They are standing between fear and truth, and both voices are speaking loudly. Fear says, protect yourself. Truth says, stop pretending. Fear says, it may already be too late. Truth says, you will never know unless you speak. Fear says, what if they no longer care? Truth asks, what if they have been waiting too? Your soulmate is tired of this battle. There is a moment approaching when they will no longer be able to remain neutral. And this is where something extraordinary begins. Earlier, your soulmate remembered a specific moment involving you. Not the obvious memory you might expect. Not necessarily the biggest conversation, the happiest day, or the most dramatic event. It was something small. Something you may not even remember doing. Perhaps you listened when they expected judgment. Perhaps you noticed sadness behind their smile. Perhaps you showed kindness during a moment when they felt invisible. Perhaps you said something simple that stayed with them long after you forgot saying it. That memory returned tonight with unusual clarity. And when it did, your soulmate realized something. You once made them feel safe without asking them to explain why they were hurting. That realization unsettled them deeply. Because the life they have been trying to build without acknowledging you has contained many things, but that feeling of being completely seen has been difficult to replace. People have spoken to them. People have stood beside them. People may even have expressed affection. Yet something has remained missing. Recognition. The strange feeling that another human being can look at you and somehow understand the language your silence is speaking. They felt that with you. and they are finally admitting it. But there is still something they are afraid you will discover. Your soulmate believes they made a mistake that changed how you see them. They replay it far more often than you know. They wonder whether you interpreted their silence as indifference. They worry that their distance looked like rejection. They fear that choices made from confusion may have convinced you that you were never important. Yet the truth is almost the opposite. You became so important that they became afraid of losing control. They were not prepared for what your presence awakened. They were not prepared to care that deeply. And instead of moving closer, they stepped backward. This is one of the great contradictions of the human heart, my child. Sometimes people run not because something means nothing, but because it means more than they know how to hold. Your soulmate has been learning this the hard way. Tonight, they are beginning to see the cost. Something else happened in the last few hours. Someone mentioned a possibility about your future. Perhaps they suggested you may meet someone else. Perhaps they casually said that people cannot wait forever. Perhaps your soulmate saw something that made them wonder whether your life is moving forward without them. The details matter less than the reaction. Their expression changed. Their thoughts became restless. And suddenly, the idea of you choosing another path no longer felt theoretical. It felt real. That was the moment the walls inside them began to crack. They realized they had been living as though you would remain emotionally available forever while they decided what to do. They assumed the connection could remain suspended, untouched by time. But hearts grow. Lives change. People heal. Doors do not always remain open simply because someone is afraid to walk through them. Your soulmate understands this now. And the understanding arrived like thunder in a quiet room. They may lose you not because the love was weak, but because they waited too long to honor it. That possibility is frightening them tonight. Yet hear me carefully. This message is not asking you to chase them. It is not asking you to abandon your dignity, interrupt your healing, or carry another person's emotional responsibility. Divine love does not demand that you become smaller so someone else can become brave. What is meant for you must meet you in truth, effort, and mutual respect. The urgency tonight is not about forcing an outcome. It is about awakening. Your soulmate is awakening to consequences. They are awakening to their own heart. And something they do next may surprise even them. For several nights, they have considered reaching out. They have imagined different versions of the conversation. They have typed words and erased them. They have rehearsed explanations in their mind. They have wondered whether to begin casually or say everything at once. They have pictured your reaction. They have feared silence. They have feared anger. They have feared discovering that the version of you they miss no longer exists. But beneath every fear is one desire. They want to know whether there is still something alive between you. And tonight, that desire is becoming stronger than their pride. There is still one obstacle. Someone close to your soulmate does not want them reopening this connection. This person has their reasons. Some may come from genuine concern. Some may come from misunderstanding. Some may come from their own experiences with love. But your soulmate has allowed this voice too much authority over a decision that belongs to their heart. Recently, this person said something about you that your soulmate could not forget. They questioned your intentions. They suggested that if you truly cared, things would already be different. Your soulmate stayed quiet at first. But something happened inside them. For perhaps the first time, they felt the need to defend you. Not because they believe you are perfect. Not because the past contains no mistakes. But because they suddenly recognized how unfair it was to reduce your connection to a few visible moments when so much had existed beneath the surface. They remembered your patience. They remembered the times you tried. They remembered the parts of your story no outsider knew. And instead of agreeing, your soulmate said something unexpected. You don't know them the way I do. Those words changed the atmosphere. And after saying them, your soulmate changed too. Because defending you forced them to admit that somewhere inside, they still feel connected to you. They could no longer hide behind indifference. They had revealed themselves. But the biggest revelation came afterward, when they were alone. They asked themselves a question they had avoided for months. If I still care enough to defend them when they are not here, why am I pretending I do not care whether they stay in my life? There was no comfortable answer. And that is when the emotional danger of tonight became real. Your soulmate is confronting themselves. They can no longer blame timing for everything. They can no longer blame distance for everything. They can no longer hide behind other people's advice. At some point, they must decide whether fear will continue writing their story. And heaven has allowed this moment because growth often begins where excuses end. My child, you too are being asked to see something differently. You have spent time wondering whether their silence meant you were forgotten. You have questioned whether the connection was imagined, one-sided, or somehow meaningless because reality did not unfold as quickly as your heart once hoped. But not every delay means denial. Sometimes delay reveals character. Sometimes distance exposes what closeness allowed people to avoid. Sometimes separation teaches a heart the value of what it once took for granted. Yet you must never build your life around waiting for someone to become ready. Your path must continue. Your joy must continue. Your purpose must continue. If someone belongs beside you, they must learn how to walk beside the person you are becoming, not expect you to stand frozen where they left you. Your soulmate senses this transformation in you. That is another reason tonight feels different. They can feel, even without direct proof, that you are not the same. Something in you has become quieter and stronger. You may still care, but you are learning not to collapse around uncertainty. You may still remember, but memory no longer owns every hour. You may still wonder what could happen, but a part of you has started asking a more powerful question. What do I deserve? That question is changing everything. Your soulmate may not know exactly how you have grown, but they sense the shift. And it makes them nervous. Because the version of you who once waited endlessly may no longer exist. They know they cannot approach you with half-truths anymore. They cannot return casually and expect the same emotional access. If they come toward you, they must come with honesty. And they know it. There is a confession forming. Not necessarily a dramatic declaration spoken beneath moonlight. It may begin with only a few simple words. I've been thinking about you. I need to tell you something. I handled things badly. Can we talk? But beneath those ordinary words would be everything they have been holding back. The apology. The fear. The regret. The truth about what happened when you were apart. And one revelation you do not yet know. Because there was a moment during the separation when your soulmate almost made a permanent choice. A choice that would have taken them further away from you. They came closer than you realize. They told themselves it was the sensible path. They tried to convince themselves that starting something different would erase what they still felt. But before they could fully commit, something stopped them. At the time, they called it hesitation. Tonight they are realizing it may have been clarity. Because the thought that stopped them was not about the future they were trying to choose. It was about you. They imagined you finding out. And the pain they felt at that thought told them everything. They were not ready to lose you. Even then. They simply did not know how to return. But what heaven is showing tonight is that the window between realization and action does not remain open forever. Your soulmate feels this. That is why their emotions are escalating. They have been pacing between choices internally, asking whether speaking now will make things better or reopen wounds. And then something unexpected entered their thoughts. A sentence. A very specific sentence. They imagined you saying it to them. They do not know whether you ever actually would. But the sentence shook them. I waited for you until I learned I didn't have to. My child, that imagined sentence broke something open inside them. Because for the first time, they understood that losing you would not necessarily happen through an argument, betrayal, or dramatic goodbye. They could lose you through your healing. Through your acceptance. Through the quiet moment when your heart stops asking them to become who they refuse to be. That is the danger they are facing tonight. Not danger to their body. Danger to the future they secretly hoped would remain available. And now they know they must choose. But there is one final detail heaven has not yet revealed to you. Because your soulmate is not only thinking about speaking. They have already taken the first step. Something has been prepared. Something connected directly to you. It may be words saved somewhere. A message not yet sent. A decision written down. A conversation arranged. A truth shared with someone they trust. But whatever form it has taken, it means tonight is no longer only about thoughts. Movement has begun. And once you understand what they prepared, you will understand why this night feels so emotionally charged. Your soulmate looked at what they had written and nearly deleted it. Their finger hovered. Their mind screamed at them to retreat. Then they read one particular line again. A line they had never had the courage to say to you before. And instead of deleting it, they added something beneath it. Something even more vulnerable. Something that could change the way you understand every period of silence between you. But before I reveal the words they are finally preparing to confess, you must understand what happened immediately afterward. Because someone entered the room. Your soulmate quickly hid what they had written. And the person who appeared looked directly at them and asked one question. A question about you. Your soulmate froze. Not because the question was cruel. Not because they had been caught doing something wrong. They froze because the person asking already seemed to know far more than your soulmate had ever admitted. And then this person said your name. Your soulmate's face changed instantly. There was a long silence. Then came a sentence your soulmate never expected to hear tonight. A sentence that may become the final push they need to stop hiding from what their heart has known all along. And what was said next is where everything begins to change.